Good afternoon, everyone. Glad you could join us today. My name is Tom. I'm the Executive Director of Illinois Firefighter Peer Support. And today we have with us Karyn from ATC, Addiction Training um, Center. Thank you. Brain cramps. I'm not even 30 seconds in, right? Here I go. But we're super glad if you joined us today. I'll let Karyn introduce herself because I'm sure she can do it, as usual, better than I could. But I had an opportunity to meet Karyn last year at the symposium. Her and Scott had come up along with Joel Breyer, and Joel presented at the symposium. And they have a online training course for addiction intervention, which most of the leadership now of ILFFPS has taken. We've opened it up to our members, and they gave us a discounted rate for that for our members, which I thought was a phenomenal thing. And we've kind of created a partnership in all this, and they're now one of our sponsors through financial donations from the class. And don't for a minute think that I'm endorsing the class because of that. The class was actually really good, covered some of the basics of communications, gave me some really good ideas about how to think to approach these situations. And it's just really been a good partnership and some really good training. The feedback from it has been just really good with even a couple of our guys that have gone through it once, and she'll talk about this when we get towards the end, but they've actually gone back to watch it a second time because they really appreciated the material. So that's my little bit of endorsement on that. But today, besides talking about the class towards the end, we just kind of wanted to have Karyn on and just pick her brain a little bit about what do we do with people when we think they're addicts? What are steps to take? What are warning signs? Those kind of things. It's really just a basic run through. I mean, we're going to be here for about 30 minutes. Won't keep you much longer. Don't worry. But sometimes we think we see something, but we're not sure, or we just kind of assume, oh, it's probably okay. But after we meet Karyn here in a few seconds, we'll get into some of these things to think about and how to approach that to make us better skilled at helping our brothers and sisters. So with that, I turn it over to Karyn. And Karyn, if you want to introduce yourself and your organization for us, that would be great.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you for your service and all the service of first responders, firefighters everywhere. My name is Karyn Hurley, and my background is I've been in recovery for 40 years, and I came into recovery wondering what I was going to do next, and I became a therapist. I've worked in treatment. I've worked at all the phases of treatment, right up to program director and developing programs. A few years ago, we began to worry about what was going on and how to get more people to treatment. So we decided my business partner and I, Scott Jones, decided to write this course. And we've been live all this time, but there's so many steps in how do we talk to somebody. My brother was a firefighter, as Tom knows, and some other people know. And 18 months ago, I lost him to addiction, and he OD'd. My heart is with firefighters. My heart is with first responders. And I'm so proud of this course because the course that we have is a first responder course. And we have a whole second piece that is all about your background and what you do and how you do it. So I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to know Tom. I got to meet him over a year ago. We came out to the symposium, and we had helped Joel put that whole program together. We did speak a little bit with him. And I was lucky enough to meet a lot of wonderful people like Tom, because I got healed out there by great firefighters that I met. Mm-hmm. So I'm so appreciative to be here and to do this. We have a great course. We have a course that's succinct. It's very clear on what to do. We make it so that you understand it. And the modules are set up so that you can take a module at a time or leave if you need to, come back and take the course as many times as you want.
Nice. Perfect. So with that, we'll get into a little bit of the meat of this. My goal is always to give anybody watching practical tools to use today, right? So I don't like just like information that it's not usable. So one of the first things I think that it would be good to kind of maybe talk about a little bit is what is it? What are some warning signs that we should be watching for? Whether it be coworkers, friends, family, what are some warning signs that maybe it's time to do something?
One of the first big warning signs is somebody acts differently. Maybe they didn't shower and they were showering every day. Maybe they're a little more irritable than they used to be. Maybe when you just even have a conversation and with them, they're more irritable. They don't want to have conversations. You find that people with addictions back away from others, where they were friendly before. Maybe they were sitting around a table. They were wanting to talk. They were friendly when they came in on their shift or whatever that was, or even family members, and all of a sudden they don't want to talk to you or they have excuses and they start backing up. Those are the very beginnings of something going on. And truly, each person knows that there's something wrong. They just don't know what it is, and they sure don't want it to be addiction, and they sure don't want it to be anything that's happening to them. One of the things in knowing my brother and working with firefighters is that you don't want to feel like you're not in control of your life. I mean, people depend on each other. You depend on when you go out, you depend and you want to be dependable. And so when
Mhm.
you start feeling like you're not, or something's wrong and you don't know what's wrong, it's defensive. So knowing those signs are, I think, one of the very beginnings of what is going on. Something is already happening by that time. So noticing that, and just notice for a while. I think observing people is really important. Confrontation, quite frankly, doesn't work until the very end, or loss of job or something. But you know what really works is being somebody's friend. What really works is having a conversation with another human being and just say, I see that something's wrong. I don't know what it is. And even if you do know what it is, you don't know what it is. So I don't know what's wrong, but I'm your friend and can I help you? What can I do to help you? Because I want to. I want to be here and I care about you. So that's the beginning of opening a door. You may get it slammed shut, but that person knows that you do care. That's the important seed to plant in the beginning.
Okay, nice. Let's see my other. I got my list here.
Okay.
So, when you do start those conversations, if let's say they don't slam that door and they're kind of open to it, how do you guide those conversations? Are there some key questions you might want to ask, and are there like indicators that might give you a clue to kind of what's going on?
Sure. One of the first things if you're talking to another human being, no matter when you're talking to another human being, you want to find out how you can have a conversation with somebody. You know how you meet somebody right away and immediately you have the ability to talk to them. And other people you meet, and it's more difficult to talk to them. So listen to the words people use. If you're working with somebody day in, day out, you know the words that they use. Begin
Hmm.
to use the same words. Begin to build some sort of communication with them. You probably already have some communication, but build on that. Open that door. So if somebody says, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Something's wrong. How can I help you?" The best thing you can do for another human being is, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Is there something I can do to help you? I Because I've noticed something's going on, and I'm willing to be your friend. I'm willing to help you. So let's figure
Sure.
it out. Let's figure it out. Another good question is, is something wrong at home or is something wrong at work? Start the opening of what that is. Probably it's not going to be at work. It's going to be at home, and whoever the spouse, significant other, whoever that is, there's something going on, and they're always at me. Well, why do you think that is? Is just what's happening that they're mad at you all the time? It didn't seem like it used to be like that. What's happened? So that door will continue to open
Right.
as you take the blame away from the person and kind of guide them around. We teach you those skills. We actually teach you what we call NLP. So we teach you skills, and those skills of how to talk to somebody. How do you talk to somebody who doesn't want to be talked to? Quite frankly, that's the bottom line for addiction. If it's all the way out there, people are obstinate and they don't want to talk to you. And so how do you do that? And it's always with an open door. always with remembering what people say, and helping them to see, maybe something's going on with you too. It's not just your wife or your husband or whoever that is.
Do you find there's any like typical responses from addicts? Like, do they have usual go-tos, usual excuses, or like red flags that should be kind of like a, you know, certain comments or attitudes that should be a red flag for those of us trying to help?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. That's one of the big ones. I have no idea what you're talking about. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah,
So if you
yeah.
bring up like, hey, this is going on, I got no idea what you're talking about. Like, wait a second.
Yeah, so now you know that whoever is feeling, he or she is feeling like you've noticed something they didn't want you to notice. And so what you can do with that is, somebody will say, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. Well, I did notice the other day that you're sleeping a lot in the back, or I did notice that when you came into the station or the office or wherever that is, you were just feeling kind of off. And I know you, and I care about you, and I see
Sure.
you were off, and maybe you're not feeling well. Give them something to hold on to so that you can keep that door open rather than have it slammed shut.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
Hmm.
very good. Very good. So, before we keep moving forward, and I got to be honest, in my brain, when we're talking about addictions and first responders, uh, like in my head right away, I think alcohol, but it's really more than that, correct?
Absolutely. And
So are there any? I mean, none of us can sit here and deny the fact that alcohol has historically been, unfortunately, historically, it was actually a tool to help us cope. But then, of course, we realized it was probably, it was a hammer when we probably needed a nice soft screwdriver for something, right? But
right.
when we talk about addictions in the fire service, are there things that you see more than others? Is there, you know, if you could speak into that, that would be great.
Years ago, you're absolutely right. Alcohol was the drug of choice, and first responders, firefighters, tough guys, gotta have a beer. Drinking, that was all part of just who you were, who any
Hmm.
the whole scenario of who were. That's changed in the last years. One of the things that's happened is, I think what's happened, and this is my opinion, is that I see more and more injuries that used to go by the wayside. Years ago, people didn't go to a doctor because I remember my brother saying, no, I got hurt, but no big deal. But later in life, oh, I got hurt. Now I'm on all these drugs to help stop the pain. And before you know it, he was addicted to several different painkillers. He would get off, he would get on. He was also a vet, so they'd give him more when he'd get onto the VA. And so what's happened is you find that people are drinking. Then you're finding that they're also using painkillers because, um, after all, it was prescribed by a doctor, right? How that
Right.
can be if it's prescribed. But we forget to ask, are you using it as prescribed? Probably not. But, well, I had a lot more pain last night, so I needed to take a few more. And before you know it, somebody's addicted to painkillers. And
Sure.
I see that all the time. My background is nutrition and brain chemistry and research, and I have seen more and more research about brain chemistry and trauma and what's happened with some of the drugs that are out today,
Okay.
medications.
Um, so now besides alcohol and I've felt that like probably painkillers is probably a bigger issue than we even recognize right now because you're right. I don't know how you get through this without an injury. I
Yep,
certainly haven't, right? A
that's
couple
right.
times now, more.
Yep.
We won't talk about getting older and getting hurt more. That's a whole other.
Thank
That'll
you.
be a different day. But what about like other types of addictions? I know occasionally I do hear things, or we've had requests with gambling issues as well as some sexual addictions.
Yes.
So, first of all, just two-part question. Just your thoughts on other types of things, addictions like activity addictions, if you will, and also if there's a different approach to those for us.
They actually call them lifestyle addictions.
Okay.
Yep, and that's the term for gambling, sexual addiction. Some of the, including can't leave your phone alone to an extreme. Can't be off your phone anytime at all, 24/7. You're constantly vigilant. And what happens with, especially with phones, is you guys are on call all the time, so that makes it even more difficult. And that's how it starts. But lifestyle addictions, like sexual addiction and like gambling addiction, what happens is that people um, feel this constant rush. Now, one of the things that happens with firefighters that I see that's so different from vets is that you're always on urgent, waiting for something to happen to go. And when I first started working with firefighters, I went on YouTube and I watched everything I could possibly find and could feel the rush with you guys and could feel that constant rush. Well, what happens when you have a little bit of downtime? Lifestyle
Mhm.
addictions create a rush.
Mhm. Yeah.
See, when you're gambling, you're actually doing something that creates an endorphin rush. And so that's one of the ways that you begin to cope. Alcohol does, you begin to feel calmer or up, depending on which neurochemistry that it hits, and different drugs do different things. But lifestyle addictions create that endorphin rush that you guys are used to. And so working on that and knowing that, that's when you begin to change things. There was a firefighter in my office this morning who's retired, and he said when he first retired, he sat on the porch and stared off into the, he didn't know what to do with himself. He was used to constant, he was a captain, he was constantly used to rushing and going. And we talked about this morning. What do
Right.
you do to create some of that in your new life? What do you do when you're downtime? If you work 3 days and off two, what do you do with your downtime that you don't feel like you're speeding and rushing? And how do you convert that? Those are things that you can learn and work on.
Is there is there a different way to approach those lifestyle addictions? Because I feel like when I think about it, and I'm obviously no expert, didn't even stay at a Holiday Inn Express, but I think about, like, we can all say that if someone drinks too much, you're drunk. You're drunk. Go home. You've had too much to drink, or you've had too many pills. You can tell, right? But how do you approach someone that you think is gambling too much? Like, right? So, like, it's kind of like a, I hate to use the term harmless addiction, but it can be viewed that way, right? Like, so he gambles a lot, whatever. He enjoys it. He's you know what I mean? He's not passing out drunk.
Well, substance addiction carries its own stigma. And
Sure.
so the stigma for professional people like you guys, it carries its own stigma. And that I hope is changing with more education and more understanding of what's going on. The problem with lifestyle addiction, well, let's take the gambling. People view that as, well, that's just a relaxing thing. They're going to the casino, you're having a good time. And before you know it, that person is in debt. Now he's coming in and he's worried about when am I going to get paid? I'm broke. I can't believe I'm broke. And you start
Sure.
hearing all those things, and yet they'll talk about, geez, they just played the lottery, or we're going to the casino this weekend, or we're doing something. Yet they're broke. So now
Yeah.
you know that there's an issue. The other issue is when there's consequences, like you lose your house. People lose their
Yeah.
houses. They can't pay their car payments and they're being repossessed in the driveway. That's the end of any addiction, but that comes faster with a gambling addiction. With a gambling addiction, you will go down faster because you have no control over whether you just spend $10 or $1,000. Because you know what? You're always going to win it back. That
Yeah.
person
Right.
always feels like they're gonna win it back. They're lucky today. No one's gonna find out that I'm that far in debt because I'm gonna win that back. And they don't.
Yeah. And,
They
and
don't.
Illinois is pretty tough because, like, I'm a little bit out in the sticks, and, like, everywhere you look, there's gambling places to go do electronic gambling. It's
Yes.
just crazy. Uh,
Yes.
can't find a place to buy a good cup of coffee out here, but I can gamble in about
Yeah.
six different places.
That's right. That's right. Now, if somebody starts that process up and then you start having those feelings, most often someone doesn't just gamble. There's other things going on. Once in a while, you find just a gambler. Or in this day and age, you don't even find a lot of just people who just drink either. There's combinations of things.
multiple addictions at the same
Right,
time.
right, right.
I didn't know that.
So
That's
what
interesting.
happens is if you go into work and you're concerned about somebody can smell the alcohol, you're not going to use alcohol. What you're going to do is do some pills because
Right.
nobody can smell that.
Yeah, sure.
Nobody can smell that. Nobody knows. And you're not going to move because if you ever take the two together, you know you have a problem. So you're not going to take the two together. What you're going to do is just one, and hey, I deserve a drink when I get home from work, right? I deserve to do that,
Yeah.
and I forget that I've just kicked the dog and I've just screamed and yelled at my children and I'm really angry at my wife or husband, and we forget that we do all those things because I walk in the door and I've worked all day and I'm tired and it's your fault. And
Yeah.
that's that addiction circle.
Hmm.
But with gambling, there's not that kind of circle. It's terrible stress. And the person, people I've worked with, they're so stressed all the time and they're so worried all the time because you're
Hmm.
not using an outside substance. You're creating this from trying to get this rush that you're looking for. And
Okay. I can only get a good sign it would stand up.
oops. And so with those addictions, it's even worse. Sexual addiction is kind of the same thing. Everybody, sexual addiction is about relief. Sexual addiction is about control. But you get the same biochemistry rush at the same time.
Really?
That as well, yes. Same thing. But most people are looking just to calm themselves down, to be okay. Joel talks about finding people in parking lots at Walmart, and on porn sites, and and I have worked as a therapist. I worked with people with sexual addiction, and you know they're so stressed all the time. But that's the same as gambling. Those two kind of go together, and oddly enough, they fit in the same receptor sites in the brain.
Does now I'm kind of familiar with the idea that like alcohol is kind of a you always need more and more alcohol to keep up with the addiction. Um, is gambling does gambling work that same way and the sex or all addictions they work that way? You always have to increase the
Somewhat. What happens between substance abuse, outside addictions, and lifestyle addictions, the
Mhm.
addictions like alcohol, the addictions using medications or pills or meth or drug, whatever it is, cocaine or whatever that is, you build up tolerances. So your body actually builds up a tolerance to them, and in order to have more, then you need more. I teach a part in the course on brain chemistry, as you know, and that what happens is the more you flood your pathways of your brain, the more you need it. With lifestyle addictions, you're actually trying to create the feeling. See, that's happening over here in with alcohol or drugs. It's flooding your brain, so you build a tolerance and you just need more. That's as simple as this. When
Right.
you're using lifestyle addictions, you're
Mhm.
trying to create that rush. You're trying to keep doing that. So as you don't get it and you get more and more in debt, you'll continue to do it more and more because you need that. You need that feeling. You need that euphoric feeling that you're not
Right.
getting in life.
So
It can be more
we're
dangerous.
what's that?
That can be more dangerous. I've seen people with gambling addictions, not have enough money, then now they're stealing from their families.
Sure.
Not that the other addictions don't do that, they do, but on a much larger basis because you've borrowed money or you've lost money or now you're going to lose your house or your family or something. And
Hmm.
it's a very stressful addiction.
Interesting. I did not know that about gambling. We have about 5 6 minutes left. I got probably one of my bigger questions now. I think is what are some things that I should be thinking about? So let's say I'm going to approach a coworker that I feel has been struggling. Um, are there some things that I should have pre-planned before I have this conversation?
Yes. And in the course, we lay that out. When, maybe a spouse has called you and they're concerned about someone, or maybe you
Hmm.
just know. Um, I always say, call somebody and find out if this person is willing to go to treatment or they're willing to do
Hmm.
it, get that lined up. Talk to somebody that can help you line it up. your job, uh, whatever your job is, whether you're firefighters or first responders or just people in life, whatever it is, you know your job better than anybody else. At ATC, we know our job better than anybody else. We're not just interventions, but we've worked in treatment. We know the good centers. We know who they are. We know where to place people. We know how to work with people. So always have a team. You guys are a team. Just your peer support is an amazing team. So bring in the other piece to your team. Take the course, learn it. We're here. I've had firefighters take the course and then call me and want to chat about the course and talk about pieces of it and learn more. Absolutely. We're here. And especially me, I answer my phone 24/7. I'm one of those people. Can't put down my phone. Because if somebody needs help, I am always there.
Sure.
But answer the questions. We'll answer the questions and work you through it. If you have somebody you're concerned about and you're not sure what to do, call me. I'll be happy to tell you and walk you through it and see how we can work it together and see what we can do. Happy to help you. Taking the course will give you so much information, real world, everyday information about people. And we think we know, but we don't. We don't know as much as we think we do about people. But
Yeah.
if we learn some skills, right? You took the course. If you learn some
Mhm.
skills about that, you'd be amazed at just how your everyday life just gets better, even if you don't talk to somebody about addictions.
Yeah, it's like anything, right? When we become actively involved in anything, we learn about that for ourselves as well, right? So
Right.
I think that's a key point. As we help others, we learn. I've definitely learned a lot in the last few years, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what I would remind those of us, those that are viewing from Illinois, not that we can't help in other states, but if you call from Illinois, um, we can help find and facilitate a place to take someone. We have numerous places in Illinois. We don't as an organization endorse any one treatment facility or center. Um, what we do is typically Dr. McKinnis will get involved at that point because I know my boundaries most of the time, or at least occasionally. But what we she does then is figure out what's going on and then work with that person and their insurance to get them into the best place, because there's a lot of places that would be glad to take and treat you, but you'll get a pretty big bill when you're done if it doesn't fit your insurance. And talk about going right back to your addiction. That'll just push you right there when you get that bill. That's really important. As sad as it is, frustrating as it can be, you really need to figure out the right place for that person to go that would include their insurance.
Right.
Um,
That's right.
yeah, that is. I mean, that's a talk about a stressor. I mean, some of those in-house facilities are $10,000-$20,000 for the month if you do a 30-day in program. So I don't know about anybody else out there, but that's significant for me, right?
Absolutely.
So but we can help you through that process. In the meantime, if you do have an issue, you can always reach out to us at 855-90 support, and we'll help you. But again, I really highly recommend taking a look at ATC. We'll put the link in the messages underneath. So if anybody wants to click on that, they can go, right there. And I know Karyn is exactly right. She's always by her phone and answers questions pretty quick. I really appreciate for those that came and listened, and maybe take time tomorrow or whenever you get a chance to listen to this, that you take time to listen to this. Addiction is really a big issue. It's a big issue for our families as well as our brothers and sisters at work.
Yes. Yes.
And I know that when we think about alcohol, it's been an issue for the fire service, and it's gotten a lot better. I mean, I've been around it. All right, I would say 2 years, but two plus about a lot more, right? And I've seen, when I started it, open alcohol was occasionally in the rigs, and fortunately, that's all gone now for anywhere I've seen. But we still have it kind of under covers. It's still kind of a viable tool that many people use to cope. The problem is it's going to bite you. It's going to bite you. It always does.
And it does.
Um,
So, you guys are amazing. I mean, you have things set up and, don't, you call Tom, even if you're not from there, to find out about treatment centers. Call me if you can find out
Yeah,
about
we'll help.
because you know what? Treatment centers are not all the same, and what you see on the websites are not always accurate. And some of the programs are not what they say they are. So we vet everything. I'm sure Tom vets everything. We make sure, the doctors make sure that you get what you need. And one of the things that ATC does that I'm extremely proud of and we agree with is that when we're working with firefighters, a percentage goes back to the state and forever for donations for peer support or whatever. So you can have help. It's very important that we support you guys. It's important to me personally, professionally, and every other way that we support you. What you do is life altering. And I thank all of you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. For those that have questions that didn't submit them while we were talking, if you put them in the comments, I track it pretty well. And if I don't have the answer, I am smart enough to know to reach out to people that do have the right answers, and we'll get you connected with the answers you need.
Welcome to call me too. Can I give my number?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're welcome to call me, 786-514-0893. That's 786-514-0893. And I will be glad to answer any questions that you may have on many levels. So take good care and appreciate all of you.
With that, I thank everyone for tuning in. And just a real quick note, keep an eye out on Facebook. I'm looking at Monday. We have kind of a big announcement coming. I'd like to give you a hint, but can't do it. So watch for that announcement on Monday. We got some good things happening here. It has to do with expanding what we're doing. So with that, everybody have a good day, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karyn.
Take care. Bye.